Hello, welcome to Readers of the Day, the second episode. I know it's been a bit of a while, but yeah, we've been busy people. So, I would like to welcome myself as the host for once, Yippee, Triple, and
Yeah.
Stefan.
Hello. Right.
Hello. So, Russia, FT. It was an overall quite good race, in my opinion. Uh, Went very smoothly, competitive racing, but EX Autosport came out on top. Triple, you are the owner of that team. Can we get a bit of insight?
Just a quick correction. We were originally out on top until a 10-second penalty was sadly handed at the end of a race for a pit stop glitch. But overall, it was a very good race for us. It was just Cree this time. We came in feeling a little bit better than we did for Australia. Definitely a lot more confidence about it. I was fully aware of how good Ollie was going to be, given I'd raced against him in a few public lobbies before the race, and he was very much up to pace. To be fair, Cree managed the race very well. It was very unfortunate with the pit lane glitch that caused us to get a 10-second penalty. Ollie did the same, but he slowed down, so then it was, he went into first gear or whatever it was, which helped him to go on and get, for me personally, a deserving win for him. And so, to be fair, it was definitely beneficial for a lot of teams. Cree now leads the Drivers' Championship with us. It is close though. There's only 2 or 3 points separating the top three altogether. And then you've got, a nice constructors fight building up. You've got Ferrari, you've got ourselves, you've got Red Bull, and a few other teams. I think BMW and Pellicer can potentially give a shock at some point this season. When that comes, we don't know. But F2 overall, pretty solid weekend. P2, we didn't have a second driver this weekend, sadly. But, it's all good. And so we will take it on the chin and move on.
All right. Moving on to Stefan. What were your thoughts of the F2 race from your perspective?
Well, from my perspective, the F2 race was for me, it looked like an interesting event. Qualifying, it was interesting to see who would take pole. Since it was kind of close towards the end, but then the lead was extended, and then of course in the race, the 10-second penalty really made a big difference. It was the difference between winning and losing, and yeah, I found it to be a good event.
Yeah. From a McLaren economy perspective, as team owner, and I actually did race in this F2 feature, we managed to get a few points. It was P5 and P6, I believe, if I'm not wrong. Could be.
You got P5, and then believe your other guy got P4. You scored pretty well this weekend.
Oh yeah, that's even better.
Yeah.
Anyways, from our perspective, it was a good race, but we want to try and improve each and every week to just become better. I don't really mind if we don't win this championship. It's just build a better future for McLaren and Sauber going forward. So this next thing I'm going to talk about is the F1 race.
I'm gonna sit this one out. Go on, you do.
Stefan's left the studio. Triple, can you get your thoughts on the race?
My thoughts on the race, definitely. Oh god, it's a mixed bag of emotions for me, really. Stefan qualified with probably the most perfect pole position lap you could ever get. Tayomo, if I'm not mistaken, was P4. It was P3. Sorry. So Merck qualified very well. and we had a good start to the race. Stefan started on the hards, which, based on our research, was a good tire to start on, and he held up with the McLarens. The McLarens were on mediums, or I think Tristan was on softs, Faker was on softs as well, and so Stefan was on the hards and was keeping up really well. And so it was all going to plan for us. Tyoba wasn't far off either. He was climbing up after a small incident at the start. So it was all looking very good for us. And then so the red flag came. And so we, based off our data, we thought, and our research of what we put into the Russian Grand Prix, we had estimated that the softs would drop off after 3 or 4 laps. But that we really wish we went with the softs on the restart. It was only 7 laps. We thought by going mediums, we would be able to keep consistent lap times until the end and take the race win, which completely fell out of our hands. And so Stefan fell all the way back to P13, but climbed very impressively to what was going to be P5 until Finn crashed painfully on the last corner of the last lap, giving us a P4, which helps with the constructors as well. But also Stefan's Drivers' Championship. Tyomo, sadly, this really bummed me, was a DNF. And so, I always had a strong feeling this was going to come at some point throughout the season. I believe this happens to every team. You go through phases where you're not going to be perfect at every race. No one's perfect. Take a look at Red Bull 2023, Mercedes 2016, McLaren 1988. Then no one's perfect. And so, I'm kind of glad this has happened now and not later down the line when the championship's really on the line. So, and I know we have time to just research, rebuild, get the strategies right, get the tires allocations right for when we're using them at certain parts of the race. And so overall, as painful as that Russian GP was for Mercedes, we've definitely taken lessons from it. Williams as well, Rich got a solid P7, which is good for him. It's another bag of points, back-to-back points. He was an F2 graduate, and I'm sure, later down the line he'll be able to climb up even further the more he learns about the F1 grid after coming from F2.
Yeah, thank you, Tribble, for that. Stefan, I kind of get your opinion on this one. I've already got that opinion based off previous actions. Stefan, can we get your very basic opinions on this race? Because I don't expect you to talk about it that much.
Honestly, I'm more so disappointed in myself than anything in the race. I was leading most of the race, had a comfortable lead. Red flag came, thought, okay, red flag could be a good opportunity for me to win. Then made a dumb decision to go onto the mediums instead of the softs. Then made some rookie errors on the restart. Fell down to P13 and it was hell. I could smell the podium. But then I made a mistake at the end and I fell down to P5 again. And then if it weren't for Finn unfortunately crashing, which honestly I'm still surprised. If anything, it makes it even worse because then I was just one position away from actually getting on the podium.
Yeah, what happened, even from a McLaren perspective, was very unfortunate for Mercedes in general. But coming from McLaren view, we would take that result any day of the week. P1, P2, I was very happy with. Tristan and Fuker in particular had a really good race. We got our tyre compounds absolutely correct. The red flag it did help us, but there was a bit of strategicness behind it. Sauber also managed to get a singular point, our first point off the F1 campaign, and we just kind of want to build upon that and strive towards the time of the next race, which we will move on to. Triple. From both an F2 and F1 perspective, what do you think will come up for the drivers?
So, Saitama, Japan, it's a very good track. It's very tough, especially that final chicane in the last sector. The lap as a whole is a short track, so, we're doing 30 plus laps here this weekend. and for the F2 drivers, I believe it's 25 or 27. I can't remember off the top of my head. But this it's also going to rain this weekend because it's an open circuit. It's not tight. It's definitely a lot safer to do rain. Sector one, you got to be careful on turn one. Track limits is really easy to get there. And then, the first chicane, you got to be careful on the wall. It's a very easy place to lose your front wing. And so that's where, it's going to hurt the most teams because, track limits is one thing. Getting your front wing broken off is another. And so you have to know the track to survive, really, from my point of view. And so, we've got Tyomo. Tyomo loves the circuit. And so we've got Stefan here as well, who's learning it. And hopefully, we've been very successful at this circuit in the past. It's probably the one circuit and Mexico that we've never been off the podium. We've always been there. It was P2 and P3 last season. It was the first race where we got podiums after a pretty miserable PMA season 2, despite us having a much better second half to that season. And so, I'm excited for this race. It's one of my favourites, and it's earlier on in the calendar than it used to be.
Yeah, I would share the opposite opinion. I don't really, McLaren don't really have a particularly great experience with Saitama. Saitama is just one of those tracks that either on the day we can do very good, like with practice, getting the driving compounds right, or it can be an absolute nightmare for compounds, weather, all of that. Like one slip up and you're out of this race, no matter what. No matter how difficult the track is, you are out. Unless something happens. If you have evidence to back it up, there might be a slim chance. But Saitama's one of those tracks that's kind of hard to back up, why you did something particularly wrong.
Yeah, I will. I will just add. Sorry for interrupting. I will just add that Sector 2 as well. That's probably the easiest part of the track because if you don't get your final chicane right, you're either going to get a penalty and lose a lot of time on the straight, or it's going to be the whole track is race changing, which is why it's very good. And so and with rain in the aspect as well, who knows what happens because you could have by one moment you could be leading by 20 seconds and then you lose your front wing. You got to box in because it's in some areas it's a high downforce track, but it's not completely high downforce. But front wing does come very helpful. So it's about being cautious, but then it's also about getting it right and knowing how to get your racing line.
Particularly for F2 in this is the one I would say is most important for the F2 drivers. I know it's a short track. It's a short track. It seems simple at first, but like Triple said, Sector 2 is really easy. But as soon as you get to that chicane, it's a make or break situation. If you get even one penalty on there, it could affect you so badly. So, Stefan, opinions on Saitama as a whole?
Well, Saitama is very difficult to get right, especially with all the track limits. Really, it's a track where if you can't push the track limits, you will be multiple seconds off the pace. And last year when I was still in Aston, I had an unfortunate crash in turn 9. I went a bit wide on the exit of the turn onto the sand and slammed it into the wall. I DNF'd, lost points that got me out of the championship contention for the championship. So in general, Japan, it has always been a rough weekend for me and just haven't been able to get it right ever. I am training hard, but from my side, I don't have high expectations, but I do know Tyomo is quick around here. So I'm hoping that he will be able to get valuable points for the team and my expectations for Saitama have fallen from winning the race to getting greatly into the points, possibly podium.
Yeah. Like, it's a mixed track. Everybody will think differently about this track.
Yeah.
But
I am hoping that the rain will play a significant role in strategy. But if it doesn't, I feel like I'll be faster if there is rain.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Regarding rain, it's 20-minute intervals, what we set it to. Strategy is definitely very important here because you want the grip. If you don't have the grip, then your race is over. And so, like Stefan said, you'll be off pace if you don't hit track limits. And so, you've just got to have the focused mindset for it.
And there's really not a good place to get a penalty here because if you get track limits, and you get a penalty, the whole track is kind of high speed. There's not really a low speed corner. The lowest I can think of
exactly.
is the hairpin after the first chicane, but even that's high speed.
Yeah, because you're flatting it in the
Yeah,
fifth gear.
yeah, and the chicanes themselves are also quite fast if you cut them correctly. So really
Yeah.
tough.
So I'm gonna give a little bit of a roundup of the results from coming in from Russia. So in F2, the constructors EX Autosport lead by 7 points over Ferrari Academy and Red Bull. Not
Kill.
far behind is McLaren Academy, Alton, and Palacier. In the drivers for F2, Cree leads by 2 points, followed by Ollie and Gabzino, Alex, Felipe, Ninja, Hawk, Wadon, Husi Victor, and me.
Yeah.
And in F1, we have at the top of the constructors McLaren with 69 points, Mercedes with 51, Ferrari close behind with 48, Sauber GP with 20, Williams with 10, Audi with 4, BMW with 2, Sauber getting their first points this weekend with 1, and Racing Bulls with 1. In the F1 driver standings, leading by 5 points on 44 points is Tristan, followed by Stefan, Fierker, and Lewis, who are tied with 25 points. Vossi with 18, Mittens with 15 points, Tayoma with 12, Rich with 10, KPK with 8 points, Ara with 4 points, Vortex with 2, Flint with 2, Eric with 1, and Mast with 1. So we're gonna pass this on to Triple, who wants to make a little announcement.
Thank you very much, Cen. So, as you know, Northbound are basically the main clothing supplier for the PMA. And so, with the announced return of Pacifico, a game that has always been heavily loved by myself, the admin team, and a few other members that have been here since the start, really. And so on Friday, the 22nd of August, I will be dropping Northbound's first clothing collection for a couple months. We'll be partnered with Northbound Racing, which has a rally part within that, and then also the Pacifico Festival of Speed. There's going to be roughly 10 shirts or sweaters or different items of clothing within this collection that you will be able to wear for yourself. The Robux that goes with this, so that I get sent through, usually goes to the admins for creating games like this, like it has been announced recently. I've handsomely paid these two beside me. It wasn't a big amount, but it was a amount. And also, I could put this Robux back into making more, whether that's team shirts or whatever, or just more casual clothes. And so there'll be, I believe it's 4 or 5 Pacifico Festival Speed, and then 5 Northbound Racing collection items And so this is all in time for the Festival of Speed that will be taking place in the off season in about 8 weeks' time. And so with that, we've just got some racing collection stuff that will come with it for you to wear, which includes some rally stuff, some vintage Formula stuff, whether that's a shirt or a sweater. I am wearing the rally sweater right now, and then there'll be a lot more to come. Indeed.
All right. This wraps up episode 2 of the Race of the Day. I want to thank Triple and Stefan for joining me today as the first time being host on this show. And
I'm
I
just happy
want
to be here.
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you to everybody watching, and like Japanese would say, arigato.